A water-propelled car that could challenge a $6.3 trillion industry? We will see inventions so ahead of their time that they were never used as intended, or never made public at all. Stanley Meyer. In 1996, Stanley Meyer claimed to have invented a water-based car. If true, his invention could have changed the world entirely. Allegedly, his water fuel cell could split water into its components, hydrogen and oxygen. According to Meyer, the device needed less energy to perform electrolysis than any other system, even less what science actually predicts is possible, which allowed him to travel from Los Angeles to New York with just 83 liters of water. His claims gained him international attention, being covered by numerous media outlets, news reports where he can be seen proudly showing his invention. But this attention would soon turn against him. In the late 70s, while developing his invention, a caravan of limousines parked in front of his house, filled with men in turbans. They spoke briefly and left. Right after, another caravan, this time of US military, appeared. It turns out the limousines were Arabian oil billionaires, offering $250 million for him to stop his research, which he refused. The army official had questioned him about what the foreigners wanted, and if a deal had been struck. By late 1996, he was sued by two of his investors, and his car was due to be examined by an expert. But Meyer made a lame excuse, and the examination never took place. He was now put against the wall and forced to submit the vehicle. A panel of 3 experts deemed the invention as nothing revolutionary, and that it only used convectional electrolysis. He was sentenced to pay $25,000 in compensation to his investor, but this was far from being the end of his ordeal. This was a huge blow to his credibility, but he continued to research and would still be in contact with other investors. Sadly, the worst was yet to come. In March 20th, 1998, Meyer was having dinner with 2 men, Philippe van de Mortelle, a Belgian investor, and a second mysterious man, sometimes referred to as another Belgian investor, Mark van Krayenest, and sometimes identified, believe it or not, as a NATO officer. Meyer's twin brother Steven was also present. Everything was normal until Meyer took a sip of cranberry juice. He violently grabbed his neck, stormed out of the venue, with his brother running behind him.
They've poisoned me,
were his last words. He died moments later. Forensics found no traces of poison in his body and determined his death was caused by an aneurysm. There is a medical report floating around on the internet that mentions him having dinner with NATO officers, but there's no hard evidence supporting it. It's hard to gauge whether Meyer's claims were true. His patents are currently available for anyone to read and improve upon, and no one's been able to reproduce his results, making it kind of hard to believe his motor was real. This, of course, doesn't take away from the myth he became, the strange circumstance of his death, and, at least in our opinion, the fact that he could have been taken out just in case seemed quite possible. Just think of how many powerful people he would have pissed had his invention proved to be true. Nikola Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower. Nikola Tesla was so far ahead of his time that he even predicted smartphones back in 1926. But one of the greatest mysteries he left behind was the enormous tower he never finished. Tesla was obsessed with the idea of wireless electricity, and he dedicated years of research to it. Eventually, he met J.P. Morgan, who invested $150,000 in his project. But Tesla, convinced he could transmit wireless energy, not just locally, but across the entire globe, decided to double the size of the tower without consulting Morgan. This was a crucial mistake. Not only did it anger the financier, it also made him uneasy. What if Tesla was right? Worldwide wireless power could threaten Morgan's other investments. Lumber for utility poles, rubber for car tires, copper for wires, and more. And naturally, it could turn millionaires from many other industries against Tesla as well. Morgan pulled all funding and even blocked other investors from supporting the project. Wardenclyffe was abandoned, and Tesla never again secured funding at that scale. We still don't know whether Tesla's idea could have worked. Our current understanding of electricity suggests it may have been doomed from the start, since both the ground and the air are poor conductors. But because Tesla was a notoriously secretive man, there may have been details in his plan that we simply don't know. Starlite. Imagine a material so heat-resistant it can withstand a nuclear flash, yet stay cool enough to touch with your bare hands. In 1990, a hairdresser from Hartlepool named Maurice Ward shocked the world on the BBC's Tomorrow's World.
This torch blowing on this egg for a couple of minutes, and it ought to survive the inferno because it's coated with a remarkable new plastic. What it's made of is a closely guarded secret. All the inventor will say is that 20 years' experience as a ladies' hairdresser led him to the discovery.
He blasted a raw egg coated in a mysterious white paste with a 1,000-degree torch for 5 minutes. When he cracked it open, the yolk was still raw. Morris wasn't a NASA scientist, he was an eccentric tinkerer. After witnessing the 1985 Manchester plane crash, where most victims died from toxic smoke, Maurice, who at the time was a hairdresser, became obsessed with fire safety. He discovered the material by pure accident while burning rubbish in his backyard. A scrap of his experimental gubbins simply refused to melt. His daughter named the miracle substance Starlite. Suddenly, the military-industrial complex came knocking. Testing by the Atomic Weapons Establishment showed Starlite could survive 10,000 degrees Celsius, the heat of a nuclear thermal pulse.
The Starlite is a paint, like a white viscous liquid. Once it's set hard, if you apply a heat, and we applied a blowtorch to it, the material itself chars and becomes carbon, and that then becomes this expanding foam of carbon.
It was a potential billion-dollar gold mine. So why isn't it in our planes and homes today? The problem wasn't the science, it was the deal. Maurice was terrified of being ripped off.
It's a very different skill set, inventing a material, or in fact, accidentally inventing a material and building a business out of it. Those are in a sense two completely separate things. I think he either couldn't do the second thing, or he didn't have someone around whom he trusted to do the second thing.
He refused to patent the formula, which would require public disclosure, and demanded a 51% stake in any company that used it. Negotiations with giants like Boeing stalled for decades as Maurice refused to give up his secret. When he passed away in 2011, the recipe for the world's greatest insulator went with him.
What would you do if it was your invention?
I would try and sell it out to the best deal that I could get for it by contacting all the people that have been interested in Starlite up to now.
And how would you do that? How would you actually deal with them? Being that you've been in all these high-powered meetings and see all these executives, how they try and deal with it.
Well, I would have to make sure that I was paid for it fully first before they got anything.
What would you do with £2 million? Don't you think you've undersold it?
Well, it would be better than nothing.
Yeah, but not as good as 10.
Well, you haven't got 10 yet.
Starlite remains a ghost, a reminder that sometimes the hardest thing to engineer isn't the chemistry, it's the trust. Thank you for watching this episode. If you liked what you saw, check these videos and make sure to subscribe.